we're going to use GCF to help us. Okay, look at 2x squared minus 6x minus 56. You can take out a GCF. If you can take out a GCF, then you always want to do that because it's going to make the number smaller and it's going to make it easier. From 2, negative 6, and 56. What's the GCF? 2. The highest number they can all divide by is 2. So you would take out 2. And then in parentheses, we're going to put, what would I have to multiply by to get that? We've done this several times now. So 2 times x squared. 2 times what is negative 6? Negative 3, so it's negative 3x. And then negative 56 divided by 2. So negative 20, close, I think 28. Check my math there. Is that right? Okay, I struggled with this earlier. Now, here's what I need you to notice. Right here, now a is 1. Because a is 1, ignore the 2. Because a is 1, you can do what we did yesterday. Two numbers that multiply to negative 28 and add to negative 3. Uh, 4 and 7. Which one needs to be negative? The 7. Yeah. Negative 7 and positive 4. Those are your two numbers. Because a is 1, you do get to go to the parentheses now. So your final answer, leave the 2, but this factors into x minus 7 and x plus 4. Okay, now it's done. (3x squared minus 12x plus 18). You can take out a GCF. There's something that they can all three divide by. 3. Take it out. When you do that, you're left with, I'm going to go through this part faster. It'll be minus 4x, because 12 divided by 3. 18 divided by 3 is 6. Check your work in your head. Make sure that if you were to multiply and distribute 3, you would get that. If you look at it now, oh good, now there's not a number in front of x squared. You can do what we did yesterday. Or try to. Multiplies to 6, adds to negative 4. What number multiplies to 6? What two numbers? Multiplies to 6 and adds to negative 4. You could try negative 1 and negative 6, or negative 3 and negative 2. If you do negative 1, negative 6, that would add to negative 7. This one actually does not work. But it's not prime, because did you factor something out?
Yeah.
You factored out 3. So your final answer is just this. It's not prime because you were able to divide something. You split it up. You've got the parentheses. It's just not going to factor the exact same way as yesterday. That's done. If you have a number in front of x squared, so there's a number here. If there's a number in front and it's not 1, then you have to do what's called A times C grouping. You'll hear me say AC grouping. It works every single time. Doesn't matter if A is 1 or A is not 1. If you like this and want to do it like this, the ones we did yesterday, that works. Here's the difference between yesterday and today. Instead of just having C, you have to do A times C, and that's what you're multiplying by. And then here, you're still going to add to B. I'm still asking you to try and figure out two numbers, so if you practiced that yesterday, then you're going to be in good shape for today, because remembering factors is a good skill. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this example, but I want you to see, like, when you're done and when you do this process, this is roughly what it's going to look like. The main difference is instead of just saying C, you have to multiply A times C. You can't go straight to parentheses. You got to do what's called grouping in between. For all that is good, please make sure that the step that we're doing, you line up your work so clearly, because these have to be the best notes you've taken in this class. You're not going to have this memorized right now. It's difficult, but you need to have a good reference. I'll make a poster eventually. Haven't done it yet, so make sure that your notes are really good, because that's what you're using today to help you. All right, if you look at your guy here, 3n squared plus 14n minus 5. You have A, B, and C. Is there a GCF between those three? No. That's unfortunate, because usually that makes it easier. Is A equal to 1? No, it's 3. Shoot! You got to do AC grouping. Takes more time, but it works every time. Okay, we need to, first thing, step 1, multiply A times C. Don't write too big, because we're going to write the X thing here in a second. A times C. So 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. That's the main difference. You got to multiply A times C. And set up the X. You're trying to find two numbers that multiply to negative 15. And what do they have to add to? 14. So please brainstorm. You have to have a positive number and a negative number because you're multiplying to a negative. Multiplies to negative 15 adds to positive 14. Negative 1 and positive 15. Is that right? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to put 15 and negative 1. Those multiply to negative 15, add to positive 14. Those are the two numbers we're using. I put 15 on the left for a pretty specific reason. You're going to see why in a second. Okay, next thing. Split up the B term into the two different terms using the two numbers you just found. 3n squared stays at the beginning. Negative 5 stays at the end. That has not changed. But in the middle, instead of putting 14n, you're going to use the two numbers you just got. We're going to put 15n and negative 1n. So we are replacing 14n. This is not magical math that I'm doing. This works. If you combine like terms, what do you get? I don't want you to combine like terms, but do it in your head. 15n minus 1n, what does that give us? 14n. That's why you can do this, because that's what you had before. Cool. Now group the first two terms and the last two terms. We're going to rewrite it. 3n squared plus 15n. That goes in one parentheses. That's what I mean by group. Like, put them in one parentheses together. You need a plus sign, and then negative 1n minus 5, the other two terms. You're just breaking them up, grouping them, first two, last two. Step 4, take out the GCF of both groups so that the parentheses that are left are the same. Okay. 3n squared plus 15n. What is the greatest common factor just of that one? 3. There's something else that you can take out. 3n. So if you take out 3n, then you would have, so think about what would I multiply by to get 3n squared plus 15n. You took out one n, so there's one left. 3n times what is 15n? 5. So you would have n plus 5. You have to take a GCF out of the second one. I know it looks like there's not one, but there's negative 1n and negative 5. You should take out a negative 1. So if there's not an obvious GCF, then you've got to take out something, 1. Since it's a negative 1n, you need to take out negative 1. Which would leave you with, oh my gosh, n plus 5. Do you see what just happened? They are the same. You will know if you did it correctly if when you take out the GCF, you get two parentheses that are the exact same, n plus 5, n plus 5. If you get that far, you're basically done. You got to put the GCFs in one parenthesis, so 3n minus 1. The other parentheses is n plus 5. Miss Brandt, is it right? Multiply it out and check. First thing, multiply a times c. You've got a, b, and c. So you're multiplying 4 and 5. A times c is 20. I need two numbers that multiply to 20, and they have to add up to negative 9. You're multiplying to a positive and adding to a negative, so you're going to have two negatives. Can you figure out the two numbers for me and actually think about it? Has to be two negatives because they have to add up to a negative. Yeah, you gotta take it. This would be minus 1 because negative 5. This has to add negative. Derek, what are my two numbers?
Negative 5 and negative 4.
Negative 5, negative 4. I'm going to put negative 4 first. You'll see why in a second. Take your two numbers. 4s squared is the same. Plus 5 is the same. In the middle, you have negative 4s and negative 5s. Why did I decide to put 4 first instead of the 5? What do you think? Yeah, we want to put the things that are most in common together. So like I'm going to put 4s next to 4s squared because they have more in common. Okay, now you group. And then these two go in one. You have to take GCFs out of both. 4s squared and negative 4s. What could I take out from both? 4? What else? S. Which would leave me with s minus 1. When I take out the other GCF, I should get s minus 1. If I don't, I did it wrong. You should take out negative 5 because they both divide by that, and there's a negative there. Leaves you with s minus 1. They're the same. You did it right. 4s minus 5 and s minus 1.